Good morning. Oh my goodness. Uh, this is my first go live of the new year. And I am going to attempt to get on here on the mornings. Um, I'm a Southern girl originally, um, and my Southern roots show with the whole makeup thing, right? Um, In the mornings, I don't put on makeup until later on, like towards noon when I'm actually, because I do a lot of, I work from home, so I'm
Mhm.
working from home. And then, usually I have to go out and do stuff for my kids or for me or errands or whatever. Sometimes I'm meeting with clients, but, um, I just don't really go out without makeup. And, I had to put a little blush on just to feel comfortable and not so self-conscious. And, I know that's a learned trait. Now, I'm a huge makeup fan, so I'm also a huge fan of "You Do You Boo." And so, I'm never going to be in the camp of never wearing makeup because I actually really enjoy it. I like the whole process, it feels very artistic to me. But the thing that I don't like about makeup is that I still have that Southern root that shows where I have an insecurity when I don't wear it. So, one thing I've been doing over the last couple of months when I go and do errands or I'm doing stuff for my kids, like taking them places or taking them to work, I don't put makeup on. And I mean, I'll put mascara on, I'll put a little rouge on like I've got today. And that's it. And I've gotten very comfortable with that. And so, I'm just being transparent here and real. I'm not trying to make some kind of dramatic statement about anyone. I'm just really talking about my process because I really enjoy makeup. I don't want to wear makeup because the South taught me to be insecure with who I am if I don't have makeup on. So, I'm working on eliminating that concept, that hold, that childhood, I would say dysfunction that's in me. There's other dysfunctions, but that one for sure. That I need to look any certain way to feel secure, which
Yep.
comes from within. So I wanted to start off with that a little bit and just be a little bit vulnerable. The other thing, I know I've got a lot of space up here and I'm sorry. I don't know. So we've had quite a tremendous weekend, and mhm, thank you, Michael. I love my coffee. Um, oh, is the sound back? Karma, thank you. Is the sound back? Okay, great. Thank you. We've got a lot of wind happening here in northern Colorado, and I think there was a little bit of a flickering, so it might have been that. So this is my next kind of thing I wanted to talk about. We've seen where Mark Kelly is this fascist regime and Trump the pedophile is trying to weaponize the military justice system against him. And this plays into this mug. Uh, we have to stand with him and we need to call our representatives and say, hey, get your ass on the line and stand with Mark Kelly. And they need to together, like in a group, start doing sit-ins, start creating a parallel government by doing parallel sessions of Congress. I wrote several things about this yesterday. because this is what our Democrats need to be doing. What Jeffries is doing yesterday, running his mouth when he's cashing his APAC checks, is over. And what I wrote out a whole list of here is what legally our representatives need to be doing right now. And this Democratic Congress is captured because Elon Musk installed this Republican Congress. And the Republican Congress supports Trump, supports pedophilia, and that's not something that's going to probably budge. But we can take them out, right? Legally, nonviolent. But what are the ways that we can support Mark Kelly, right? Well, one of the ways that we can support Mark Kelly is we have to withdraw. We have to withdraw all of our capital from this captured economy. How do we do that? Stop buying stuff. And I'm not talking about toilet paper, okay? So, every time I bring this up, every time I write about it, there's always somebody that either DMs me or writes in the comment, yeah, but then how do we get groceries? And that's not what I'm talking about. Michael. Yeah, we are in a civil war. I I have a son who's 20, and I don't want violence. That doesn't surprise me, Karma, because the Republican Party is of violence, right? I mean, look, they've got the Republican ICE Gestapo, the Republican concentration camps. That's all violence. And it doesn't surprise me that happened. I haven't heard about that yet, but I haven't got on to social this morning. All right, Miss, is it Use? Yuse. Make sure I'm saying that right. That's what I'm talking about. Don't buy anything you don't need, right? Um, and when you want to buy something, buy dupes. Okay, that's where we're coming to this mug. Thank you. This mug is an absolute duplicate. Absolute duplicate. I actually took it into Pottery Barn during the holiday season last December, because last December after the election, I knew we were going to be in a civil war. I knew this was the fall of this country, of this 250-year experiment, because it's all based on racism. 250 years ago, our Constitution was written and based on racism because the South had us captured then. And we're still captured by the South because it's the MAGA and the white Christian nationals and the Heritage Foundation. Although I need to make a disclaimer, the Heritage Foundation was founded by John Coors here in Colorado in Golden. I cannot even go to Golden. Golden used to be one of my favorite cities or communities. It's small mountain town. I can't go there. It physically makes me ill. And the fact that Golden hasn't said, get the fuck out, Coors, is beyond me. Misuse, I'll get to what you're just saying. Yeah, I think, but I believe a general strike is going to be better for us than a violence. But here's the caveat, and we saw this during the Christmas holiday. Too many people are addicted to dopamine in this American culture. And the billionaires over the last 10 years has trained all of us. I had to get unaddicted too, but they've trained all of us that we have to continuously be purchasing, getting the latest and greatest. And that rewires our neurology. I'm an EFT specialist, which is called emotional, um, foundation technique, and sorry, um, and, I'm plugged into the psychological community because of that. And there has been, for the last 10 years, so much discussion. Sorry, I just wanna make sure I didn't miss any misuse. I'm gonna come back to your comment about stores to shop. Um, and then Charlie, I'm trying to finish saying, what I'm saying in conjunction with your comment, because we really do have to do a general strike, but we have to go further than that now, right? We have to completely withdraw our dollars this from this yes, Charlie, from this um economy. And in the psychological circles, they don't actually call it that response, Charlie, but they call it a dopamine fixation. And we've had such a rise in depression, and it's because the billionaires training us that we need this dopamine fix, right? Rewired our neurology. And what happens, it's empty. It actually really doesn't give us the the high that the dopamine releasing needs to. And so then there's this crash and it's really quick, right? And so we immediately are wanting that was the psychological principle behind Amazon, because if we can get you same day delivery, I mean, there's some people that got so addicted to that dopamine because they would crash because they already had underlying issues they weren't dealing with and depression, and that surfaced because it was such a crash. And I'm putting this in simplistic terms, right? If you go out and research it and get on Psychology Today, even they're going to have a lot of articles on there that gets into the um, the technical wording. I'm just not using those because there's not a need to when we're just talking and we're having a conversation. Um, that's my opinion. Getting into technical terms is not necessary to explain this concept, right? So, um, they would have these severe crashes because they already had like either underlying depression or some other mental disorder that they weren't dealing with, bipolar, split personality, you name it. Um, And of course, there's a lot of things. It's not just those. But they would then have this severe crash. So what would bring them back up was to purchase again. And so they were just constantly purchasing. Okay, that increased debt, which increased money going to these corrupt corporations. I mean, it's just this vicious cycle. And so we saw, even after everything that happened last year, the majority of the American people could not stop purchasing Christmas. They had to have that commercialism. They had to have that consumerism fix for their holiday to be correct. And, you know, maybe next year we will see that um, consumerism is because it's failing, but there's a withdrawal of it. Um, it's Consumerism has destroyed our country, and of course, it really ramped up with Reagan. Um, but consumerism, I isn't Christmas, right? I put out a on December 1st, a winter solstice guide that really talked about the history of winter solstice, and Christmas so that you understood what you were really celebrating, right? And and that's just history. That's historic, right? Let's get the religious stuff out of it because the religious stuff is what's keeping a lot of people locked in, right? And then people people are meeting with these dysfunctional families of theirs and just sitting together and playing games and talking is too much, right? So they have to go out and purchase stuff. And I'm not saying everybody's like this. I'm just saying that a lot of people are like this. And then a lot of people are like, we have to exchange gifts. If you get on Facebook Marketplace, there are so many people selling stuff that's like, yeah, I got this as a gift and I don't want it. And it's kind of oddball stuff and then things that don't fit them. And it's like, why are people just needing to purchase a gift? Right? It's like, why can't you break that when society is now waking up and talking about that? Why could they not break that? Right? So there wasn't the withdrawal. There wasn't the boycott of the holidays to the extent that we needed. And so here we are, right? Now we've got all this other shit going on and they're pushing the buttons because they're like, oh yeah, that didn't really happen like they said they were going to do. We're scary if we do it, but we're just fractured if we don't. And so when we do an economic boycott, it can't just organizing a boycott and saying, right, okay, from January 22nd to the 25th, we're doing an economic blackout. I participated in all those blackouts, but I was already blacking out the economy. I have already removed my dollars, not buying stuff except essentials. And so my energy could be lended to that blackout, right? And the reason that I supported the blackout was that I wanted people to get more awareness. I wanted more people to join in and start doing it. It could be a starting point. But the thing is, those blackouts aren't what we need. What we need is just a full withdrawal from the American people from this corrupt economy. Okay, hold on, Karma. I'm going to get to your question here. Sometimes I can't read it. Okay, hold on. Yeah, Susie. Wait, I might not be Susie. Is it Suze? Yeah. Our United States, we're coming out of it, but denial. Yes, karma, instant gratification, consumerism is what is causing the American people to be continually captured by this fascist regime. Oh, thank you, Charlie. Yeah, and I wanted to get back to this mug. So, this is consumerism, right? Because Pottery Barn sells this exact mug for, I think it's $15 a mug. The Dollar Tree sells this exact mug. And I bought mine last year, $1.25. Literally zero difference. And going to the Dollar Tree is, and buying this mug is still participating in consumerism. But in my mind, I'm not choosing to support these ridiculous corporations that have products that are so inflated. So, my personal experience with some of these stores, Restoration Hardware, Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, mm, um, pre-COVID, I had I was a shopper. So, I'm a reform shopper. I'm a recovering Catholic. And I am a person who cut off their family because my mom was bipolar. And it was the best thing that I've ever done for myself. And it was hard. All of it's hard. I celebrate winter solstice specifically because this is such a beautiful time of the year. And I want to be connected to myself and not consumerism. specifically at this time of the year too. And I've written about that. I also posted my 12 Days of Yule, which ended on January 2nd, because I practice it starting on January 22nd, the day after winter solstice, because for me, because of the earth and the way the sun is coming up, starting to come back, and it's a time of rebirth. December 22nd is when I say my new year begins. And that was actually very common in all cultures before Christianity. Mm. And in relative terms, Christianity is young, right? So, um, that practice was going on for a very long time. Um, I do celebrate December 31st with my kids. We do a different movie that then has like an epic event that we time at midnight because that's fun. But I only celebrate it because the calendar year that, we all have to follow to function in this world changes over. Yeah, I'll celebrate that, you know, calendar year, but that's not when my new year begins. So my new year begins on December 22nd. And this 12 days of Yule, from December 22nd to January 2nd is the way that it used to be done. And I like doing it that way because it's an introspection of, not it's not, "Okay, I'm gonna set up this challenge. I'm gonna lose 30 pounds." It's not that, right? It's more, where did you not have joy? It's an inventory, right? Where can you have more joy this year? Like, something like that. So it's an inventory. I was encouraging people in a post that I made yesterday, if you didn't do any of that because you weren't aware of it, it was new to you, you're not late to the game. Imbolc, which is I celebrated on February 3rd, which is the halfway point to the spring equinox. But it was also a time of celebration because it was the halfway point. Society used to celebrate that as a time of renewal. Not that anything was sprouting yet, but the seeds were there. So the time for renewal was happening. And so the way that I like to celebrate Imbolc, and I do this, and so I'm encouraging you all to do this, is the 12 Days of Yule that I posted on my Substack that you can download. And there's several of them that are free. Um, you start doing those on, I think it's January 23rd, and then you'll end on Imbolc, which is February 3rd. And it's a very, to me, for me, it's a way to be like, okay, so it's, a month later, and now how am I doing on that trajectory for the new year? Because when you're making that inventory, making some commitments and changes to your inner self, you need to you need to have some touchstones. Okay, where am I at on this, right? So I'm just making sure I got everybody's message. Oh, Suze, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, package theft is real, right? So one of the things so anyway, that kind of ends that. Sorry, I jumped around there. But back to this cup, to me, it's less consumerism if I'm finding dupes that don't put money back into those corporate pockets. Now, I know Dollar Tree is a corporation, right? Um, they do give to the Democrats. That's one reason that I've continued to use them. Um, But what I was also saying pre-COVID, I was a shopper and I had Pottery Barn, Restoration Hardware, Crate and Barrel pretty much in my home, and Ethan Allen. Those were all my furniture, a lot of my Williams Sonoma, um, a lot of all of that kind of products. And the quality was shit. And I I'm at a loss for why the American people keep purchasing and investing their dollars and supporting this corrupt fascist regime for products that are designed not to last. And that's just the bottom line. These products are not designed to last. And so we have to do a full withdrawal. We don't need to make a show of it. Oh, we're going to do a blackout on these days. No, we need to just quietly all withdraw. And here's the thing, we need to withdraw and redirect. That's the next piece. So where do we redirect our dollars? And you've heard this, I'm sure, and I'm being a broken record with it because this is that important. We have to redirect our dollars to the small businesses, to the independent farmer, to the online creator like me, to the little kid down the street. All right, misuse. Yay! We need to hear that too, where people are doing it so that you see people are doing this, right? People are withdrawing. We just need more people to do it. We need to be louder about it. We need to say, hey, if you're an American, you're a patriot, you're withdrawing your money from this corrupt economy. Um, our car needed an interior cleaning, and I hired a local boy who was doing car detailing to earn money for college. That's me withdrawing my money from this corrupt economy, redirecting it into a independent business owner. I mean, he probably wouldn't call himself that, but that's what it is. And what does that do? By redirecting our dollars, we are supporting collectively each other, the American economy, and we are keeping the money in communities and cycling instead of making the billionaires richer, instead of lining the corrupt corporations' pockets. Yes, I agree, Felicia. And more of us need to do that, right? We just need to quietly just do it. And I'm being loud about it because I'm trying to educate, right? Because when I started doing this last year, last December, people were calling me over the top. In January, when I said, hey, we are in a civil war, people were saying that I was making up lies. When Elon Musk stole all our data at the end of last January, and it was a digital coup, people said that I was causing fear. I was a fearmonger. And I could not understand, but I could see it finally clearly, how the last 10 years, MAGA, white Christian supremacy, white Christian nationals, but also white supremacy, the Heritage Foundation and pedophile Trump had captured this nation with the billionaires to make sure that lies were truth, believed, and truth were condemned as lies. And so one of the reasons I'm continuing to be vocal about this is that I'm trying to break this spell that so many Americans are under. And it's really crazy. And that's why December, with people going out and spending money on junk to feed their addiction and giving their money to these corporations and lining the billionaires' pockets was beyond me. You are not alone, Felicia. And it's one of the reasons that I want to get on here and continue these lives, because we need to not feel alone. Yes, they are. But you know why they are, Suze? Why are the Epstein lies exposing all? Because we're pushing and we can't stop pushing. I mean, this whole capture of Venezuela was to distract from Epstein, to distract from the fact that everybody's healthcare like jumped up like 400% in premiums. And healthcare's and the way the healthcare system's set up is bullshit. Of course, it was not like that pre-Reagan. College was not an in debt where you went in debt to go to college. That's all Reagan. Um, we have to eradicate these billionaires, and we have to, I don't want to say we need to literally, this is not what I'm saying, burn down Congress, but Congress, we see, I mean, there's a handful of people that need to stay, the rest need to all go. The silence of the Democratic Party this last month has been overwhelmingly loud. Now, one of the pieces, okay, hold on. I'm going to Karma, hold on. I'm going to read her statement. She says, "It's unfathomable to me that the average American is so okay with continuing to enrich the rich while the rich continue to force us into poverty and staying poor and relying on the lousy paychecks we deserve that barely cover just our bills." Yes. Yeah, we have, Suze is saying, we do. We have to eradicate billionaires, and that's not a radical thing. Yep, Sarah, they are. They're all the same. And, you know, Starbucks, I use Starbucks as an example because, um, it's just such a glaring, obvious example of the corruption, right? Here are these employees that cannot make a living wage, and Starbucks is refusing, um, union because they don't wanna pay them a living wage. They make them even buy their uniforms, and excuse me, excuse me, but yet the CEO made $11 million last year. That was his salary. And when he was the old Chipotle guy, CEO, awful dude. When he moved, he didn't want to live in Seattle. He didn't want to move to Seattle, for God's sake. No. So part of his deal is that I think it's 3 days a week, the corporate jet flies him to the Seattle office to work and then flies him home. Meanwhile, his employees can barely live working there. That's crazy. Ooh, Sarah. I mean, Sarah, did you hear about, in New Orleans, how they did the voodoo doll? And, like, they were all like, the government was all freaked out and wanted to find those people that did that voodoo doll. They believe it. And I believe it too. I mean, intention, right? And, my hair looks kind of funky, but sorry. Um, I don't need to be fooling with my hair. Uh, the intention behind it, right, is just like feng shui, but, you know, I have very much thought about doing some voodoo dolls. Um, If we all did voodoo dolls with the intention of eradicating Elon Musk, Trump the pedophile, Keg's breath, the dog killer, RFK Jr. cocaine head. If we eliminated all those people in some form or fashion, I personally don't want them to die. I want them to be arrested. I want them to be jailed and humiliated. And I want all of their money to be given back to America because they're stealing. It's our money. It's our money that they use to go without congressional oversight to get this drug lord out of Venezuela. It's our money that Trump has been stealing. It's our money. Anytime says, oh, well, that's government money. No, it's not. Government money is our money. It's the American money. It's American citizen money. And then what they're doing to Social Security, Bush Jr. stole from Social Security. Bush Jr., I thought was the worst president ever until Trump, even though, you know, Trump has never won the popular vote. And it's ridiculous that the popular vote is not the vote that counts. That's why we're not in a democracy, because the Electoral College was paid off by Trump and flipped. He actually changed out Electoral College representatives in the 2016 election, and those representatives flipped because he knew he wasn't going to win. The Electoral College is completely corrupt and needs to be removed. And then he knew he wasn't going to win last year. Elon Musk installed him, and he's still walking around. I mean, countries are threatening. I'm sick of the threats. I'm sick of the we're thinking about bullshit. Don't want to hear it anymore. I want action. Yeah, Wendy, hearing the silence breaks my heart too. I know. Okay, I'm making sure. Sarah, I have watched because they do make symbols with their hands, Musk, Gates, and Trump. And I researched some of those. Now, I haven't gotten to black magic, so, if there's something you could share there, but I do know that they're making symbols with their hands that are tied to energy and different types of energy. And yeah, it's been concerning to me. And I'm like, huh. Well, and the thing is that that's where we need to use our our energy, right? And we need to use, if you haven't heard of Neville Goddard, I really encourage you to go out and read some Neville Goddard. Um, but metaphysics and quantum mechanics, it's real. And the more people that become aware and enlightened to quantum physics and quantum mechanics can use that to help everybody. I love that, Felicia. I wish that was, like, everywhere. Sarah, misuse, yeah. Yep, he did, Sarah. He put us in bed with Russia. I do think Reagan was the worst, but I think Bush Jr. I think Reagan was the worst in corruption. Bush Jr. was so dumb, and he was such an awful president. I thought he was the worst as far as presidential. Um, I don't really think he was the worst corrupt. I think Reagan was the worst corrupt. Oh, Suze, that's interesting about the antidote. Um, yeah, I'm not sure on the shunning is the caveman brain explanation. I need to tease that out a little more. Um, yeah, Elon paid for this election. He also installed this Republican Congress, right? Because it was like across the board Republican won, and that was not what the American people voted for. And, Elon Musk needed this because his companies were getting ready to be heavily fined and shut down because of unethical practices and and because his cars, Tesla, they were like there was a 1970s car that blew up right when you were and people died in it. And Tesla has more people where the car is blown up and locked the person in the car blown up and they've died than that car in the 70s. Um, so Sarah, I don't understand. I get cannibalized every single moment. You're all in danger. I don't understand that. Yeah. There's a reason why Elon thought he was going to go to jail and Steve Bannon, right? And they are, but we have to make it happen. Kimmy, Um, I did think that at the beginning of last year, and I have since changed my mind on that it's not shame that this regime has stained she says, "The shame that this regime has stained our country is putrid." And, I've actually changed my belief around that, and the reason why I have is because after the Me Too campaign and after, George Floyd, all of that went down, there was this awareness at how all our institutions were operating on a very, very biased line of white supremacy. And that had to change. That those were the to me, those the Me Too and what happened to George Floyd, both of those were the signposts that, "Oh, we're not going back." And I was glad for it. It's painful, but I was glad for it because I want our organizations not to be based in white supremacy. Now, how do you get there? The only way you get there is you gotta, what Trump likes to say, drain the swamp. Well, he's the swamp, right? They're the swamp. And we needed somebody like Trump because Trump didn't start all this, right? Um, yes, I am green with all of these. I love these comments. Keep them coming and all the hearts. This is awesome. I've kind of fallen behind, but on some of these comments, that's why I stopped talking just to, okay. And I'm liking what you guys are explaining. Um, so my viewpoint changed, and the way that it changed was that I don't see Trump as he's not the one that's caused all of this, right? This was all set up by Reagan. And there's an awesome documentary right now on Netflix. I have cut all my subscriptions, but I did renew Netflix in December because they gave to California and they gave to Palestine. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to support Netflix. And otherwise, I am let me sorry. I am streaming from the library. If you haven't done that, I really encourage you to. Um, we pay for these libraries, and I love love libraries. And you can stream your, you can download audiobooks, you can download Kindle-like books, you can stream movies like Netflix. The thing is that the interface looks different, right? It's not gonna look like Netflix, it's not gonna look like Audible, it's not gonna look like Kindle. You just have to get used to a new look and feel. But the library is a wonderful resource. Um, but back to what I was saying, Netflix. I got Netflix Black in December, and there's a documentary on there about 1975. And if you just research 1975 or look under documentaries, because it just came out last year, it is an excellent, it's only about an hour and a half, but it really contains the root of why we're in this fucking dumpster fire. And, up through 1974, no one trusted Republicans. Republicans were completely removed from having any kind of power. And that's because after 100 years ago, we were in the same dumpster fire we are now. And it was put an end to, right, with FDR. And they're like, no, we're not going to go back. And after having surplus and so much economic relief and prosperity and the middle class growing, no one was going to go back and trust Republicans. So Republicans were handcuffed and they were pissed, right? And they didn't like the way society was going. And they were very um, very anti climate change. And climate change was rolling, right? We were getting a lot of momentum behind that. But by 1974, the American people, that was a pivotal year because that was the year that we got the most close to being honest that white supremacy was the foundation of these organizations, that climate change was real and more needed to be done extremely and extreme measures, and that the government's corrupt, right? And that we need to handcuff it. And it was at that point the Heritage Foundation, Joe Coors, that fucker, started the Heritage Foundation because he was so angry at what was going on in our government in America. He was against that, all of that. And so that's when Reagan came on the scene because Reagan wasn't governor of California anymore and he was looking for a new acting gig. And that's the thing that was about Reagan that was so dangerous, was that he knew that the American people were tired. And he knew that people wanted relief. And he knew he could come up with the character of president that made people feel good. Now, it's not real and it's not truthful and it's not really how the country could be ran. He didn't care. He wanted to play that role. And so the Republican Party was so squashed that even though Reagan came on the scene in that election cycle in 75, he got a lot of attention, but Carter won, thank God. I think Carter was one of our best presidents. And the thing is that Carter was real. I think that's the most real we got with the president, and then FDR. I'm not anti-Kennedy, but Kennedy was corrupt. His family was corrupt. I mean, your father lobotomized your sister. There's something bad going on in that family. So I don't think the Kennedy family is. Yeah, in a perfect world, we'd all be colorblind. But that comment right there is actually to distract from the fact that this isn't about colorblind. It's about racial bias. And our government and our organizations being founded on that 250 years ago. And we're talking about it was founded on slavery, and it never really moved away. We changed characters and we changed the backdrop, but we never actually moved away from it. And so I wrote a piece last night about how women, and I really encourage you, Wendy, to like pull the thread on this, because women are the people that say comments like this that actually are redirection away from looking at the real issue. I had written a piece about and posted a picture about sexual abuse and how it is white men. And it was actually a childhood friend who commented, "Well, I wonder why the study it didn't look into women being sexual predators." And it goes in and it's in concert with this kind of, in a perfect world, we'd all be colorblind. And it sounds like it's thoughtful. It sounds like it's adding to the context of the conversation. But what it actually is you being trained as a woman to make it softer and less uncomfortable for the white man. And I really encourage you to pull that string, Wendy, because the more of us women that get out from under that psychological loop, the more powerful the United States will be, the more powerful the American citizen will be. Um, yeah, Felicia, libraries are sacred to me. They are sanctuary. Um, Libby. Yeah, I use Libby. I also use I can't remember their names now. There's 3 different types of, um, systems that I use from the library for my digital media, and they worked great. I had to learn them. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but, they work. So I'm gonna come to a close here, but one thing that I really wanna say, I love all these comments. This is amazing. Thank you, Karma. Yeah. Yeah, being colorblind should not be something we try to attain. I believe being, free of misogamy is what we need to attain, because there's certain catchwords that the white man has indoctrinated the woman into using that sounds like it's adding to the conversation and helping, and one of those is colorblind. That actually is not a real thing. Um, Also, the thing that I'm gonna say, "Hey, go out and try this. Go do your research." There's a lot of information about how poverty's not real, how Potter the sun is coming in, so sorry about all this. I can't do anything about the lighting. Um, Pottery is a concept that poverty is a concept that got created by billionaires, about a century ago, um, to indoctrinate people into feeling they needed to go and work in industry. And we now don't question poverty for I mean, it's like a religion almost. It's such a religious principle to most people that, yes, poverty is real, that and this is getting into the quantum physics and mechanics behind some of these words, that it's hard to talk to people about, poverty actually isn't real, right? It's a state we've been convinced is real. So I'm going to get off of here. Thank you all for joining me. I just absolutely love all these comments. You guys are amazing. And Wendy, I wasn't picking on you, which might have felt like that. I just want to say that I'm so glad you said what you said about colorblind because it added to the conversation actually, because we could pull on that thread and start, you know, dismantling um the male dominance around it that we've been trained as women to accept. I want to leave you on a note. Um, I started this yesterday, and through Friday, when you join my Substack paid side, you will get my beginnings course for free. Why am I doing this? Okay. I sell my beginnings course for $195, and it teaches you everything on how to remove your labor from this economy. And that's the other thing we need to do. We need to remove our dollars, but we also need to remove our labor. And that's scary for most people. And why is it scary? Because the billionaires have convinced you that you cannot be self-employed and successful. The billionaires have successfully convinced you that they create jobs, they create great products, that they create industry. None of that is fucking true. And I think more and more people are realizing that and coming aware that's not true. The way that billionaires have tied healthcare into your paycheck is criminal. It's criminal. Okay, so I know many of you have a job only for the healthcare, right? I'm not telling you to drop it. But what I am telling you, I'm getting ready to make a post about this today, and it's a riff off of what Under the Desk, she's an independent media journalist that I follow, was talking about this shift in the economy, in the workforce, where people of my generation would get a job and they would work it for 40 years and then retire and their health care was taken care of. That model is done, right? Now, there's still people living in that model, but that model's collapsing. So what takes its place? Well, right now, continue your job or just go get a job just to pay the bills. And then use all your other time to build an income stream that you own, that doesn't make billionaires richer or corporations greedier. You own it. And that sounds far-fetched to so many people, and it's not. I do it. You can do it. I have a course that teaches you how to do it from A to Z, all the technical pieces. There's no gatekeeping. There's no upsells. And I handhold you through it all. And I'm going to go on live tonight and talk about the course because this is the best way that you can get the course and start learning how to build a business online and make a digital income. And you do that in parallel to the job you have, right? And the thing about creating your own income is that you're then putting money back into the community and back into the people's hands. And that is what we have to do. Now, what if you're like, well, I don't know what I would sell, right? I teach you affiliate marketing, but I also teach you about how to monetize your skill set. And I'm telling you, you have a skill that somebody else wants. And remember, this isn't an American thing. I'm not teaching you how to set up an American business. I'm teaching you how to set up a digital business so that you are worldwide. And the rest of the world supports Americans. They know this isn't what we want, what's going on. A lot of my customers come from overseas, around the world. And the thing about it is that people are getting back to grassroots. Our food supply chain, because of the billionaires like Bill Clinton and all the people that are spraying our food, the FDA with forever chemicals and microplastics and a peel that Bill Gates won't reveal what's in it. And it's being sprayed on all of our vegetables, including Costco. Like I'm not buying anything from Costco. I mean, I am buying I'm not buying vegetables from Costco or fruit. And the peel stickers on there. This is why we're sick. And so how do you get out of that, right? It's this vicious cycle. And what you do is you build your own income stream. People want what you have. They want people with real knowledge. They don't want people that are just like, oh, that's selling, so I'll do that. No, people are wanting people that have done it. I have a CIS degree, a bachelor degree in CIS and business administration. I ran a web division for a public owned utility. I created it from the ground up um, for 7 years before I had kids. I ran my husband died, but my late husband and I ran a business. We were entrepreneurs, and I did all the marketing, and he did, we worked with Cerner products, and he did all the Cerner installs, and I did all the marketing with hospitals and getting our contracts. After he died, I developed a social media boutique business where I had big clients, mainly in the marijuana industry, that I would do their web design and web maintenance. I just ran their website after I designed it and published it. I did all their email marketing, all their social media marketing. And then when I lost all of that in the Marshall wildfire in 2021, I did a pivot, and 2 years later started my EFT tapping business by doing all the steps I teach you in my class, the beginnings course. And then I launched the beginnings course to teach other people how to do this and become independent. If I could do it through all that trauma, my house being burnt to the ground and me losing my business in every single thing I owned, from underwear to computers, I mean, everything. And I can do that through my husband's death. You can do it. You can do it now. And, excuse me. And because of what happened last weekend with the taking over of Venezuela or the capture of the president, I think all of that is to be seen. I don't think there's truth there, but what went down, I think I'm wanting to help as many people as I can help this week to remove their labor from this economy, from this corruption. This is our power. Most people just don't know how. So if you subscribe to my paid Substack, it's $40 a year, which comes out to like you're paying me. If you're going to join my Substack for $40, and that comes out to like $3.33 a month, and you get a lot of value. I have a lot of downloads. I do live EFT trainings and tapping sessions where you'll get the downloads and the video on the paid side. I have several reset, sorry, excuse me. I have several worksheets. There was a 5-day soul reset that I did around the spring equinox last year, and those are for download. There's just a lot. But this week, you become a paid subscriber for $40. You also get my beginnings course. And the way that works is that once you sign up for my paid side of my Substack, I will then add you to the beginning course. You'll get an email that says you purchased the beginnings course for $0. And then you'll get an email to set up your account and log in. I will never do an upsell. So for $40, no matter what I change in the course as far as adding new material, you'll never be charged more. I don't agree with doing that. Do this for yourself now for $40. Join my paid side of the Substack and start. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I will answer your questions. I will talk to you about how to understand the concepts if you get confused. But it's 20 modules long with 200 hours of video training. And I set it up specifically so that as you go through the course, you can build out your digital product business. If you want to do a course, I teach you how to set all of that up on on other platforms. It's called School, and I don't gatekeep any of that knowledge. So I'm really going to encourage you, please. This is how we have power. Remove your dollars. We talked about that today, and remove your labor. That's how we have power. Call your representatives and get them out there supporting um, Mark, the senator. I just forgot. I spaced on his last name just now, but who is being um, judged by this. We've got to send a message that you're not going to do this. Trump's a pedophile. Pedophile is doing this. Mark Kelly, thank you. Kimberly, thank you. A pedophile is doing this, right? We need to rally the troops and get behind Mark Kelly and say, nope, you're not going to do this. In fact, you're going to go to jail. But how do we do that? Right? We're loud. We withdraw our dollars from this system and we withdraw our labor. Now, you may still have to work to a JOB for your healthcare. You may still need to have a JOB to pay expenses. Build your own income stream on the side. You can do this, and you can do this with my course. This is a done for you course. And I'm not about gatekeeping, and I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So you're not going to join my Substack paid side for $40 and then I'm going to disappear. That's not going to happen. You're not going to join my paid Substack and you're not going to get the course. That's not going to happen. For $40. Invest in yourself. Invest in taking back this country by learning how to develop your own income stream that you own and that no government can take away from you, no billionaire. I'll leave you on this note. Forbes has predicted that digital marketing, because it's growing, because it does not get affected by change of government regimes, tariffs, no. And it is going to be a $1 trillion, and that's with a T, a $1 trillion industry by the end of next year, like 2027 into 2028. You need to be a part of that because it's worldwide. And people want creators who know what they're talking about. You know how to make candles? People want to learn. All right. I will see you all tonight. I hope you all join me. Thank you so much for everything that you've written. I haven't gotten to all the comments, but I will read them and I will respond. Thank you. This is building community. We're doing it. I'm so excited. We're doing it. Thank you.